Hello again, hockey fans. Are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your buddy Paladino Joey. Once again, today is Sunday, March the 22nd, 2009, and we are ready for episode number 16 of Brave the Wild, which is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Of course, I am your host, Paladino Joey. I thank each and every one of you always for downloading and listening to this show, Brave the Wild, Minnesota Wild Podcast, which is an alternative to the Minnesota Wild Podcast available on wild.com, because we are going to be more objective and not just pretty much wild, toting the company line, because you can't. You got to be honest about the situation regarding the Minnesota Wild. We're going to have some good news and some bad news today, but first and foremost, Brave the Wild, as mentioned, is available on thesportstuff.com, and we always thank Dylan Richardson for that, allowing us to host our show on his website. On thesportstuff.com, there is a button in the upper right-hand corner that says TSS Boards. Click on that, and that is how you can sign up and get on our boards, the forums, the message boards of thesportstuff.com. That is where you can talk about hockey. You can vote on our polls for Brave the Wild. There is a new poll today. We will get into that in the third segment of this show when we talk about Marian Gaborik today. But that is how you can get involved. Don't just watch sports, get involved. That is the slogan on thesportstuff.com. So also Minnesota.nhlfansite.com, Minnesota.nhlfansite.com. Chris, who is the webmaster of that site, nice enough to post a link to Brave the Wild in the front center of the webpage where it says Hockey Links right on top. And I thank you again, Chris. That is really awesome of you. It has been a nice help for this show, bringing in more listeners. And those of you listeners out there that do enjoy this show, don't forget to tell a friend so we can talk some hockey and brave the wild. All right, well, here on episode number 16, we have 6 games to review because I didn't do the show on Friday. So now we have 6 games to review, a little bit extra to talk about. I'll try to abbreviate a little bit early on, and it's not very fun early on as the Wild lose the first 3 games of those 6. In the end, they finished 2-4 overall. They do get a couple of overtime losses, though, which is okay, I guess, so they get some points out of it. And there were some ugly games in this episode. Thankfully, the very final game, which happened today against Edmonton Oilers, wonderful, just absolutely wonderful for the Minnesota Wild, and boy, did they need it. All right, so with no further ado, I had better get ready for a quick break here, and we'll be right back after this announcement. Here on thesportstuff.com, get on board the Viking ship with Purple Mafia. We will talk about the new Purple People Eaters and the best running back in the NFL, Adrian Peterson. This team is ready to make a move forward. Purple Mafia is available on thesportstuff.com, along with iTunes and MediaFly. Simply download and listen to the most honest and passionate Vikings coverage. And we are back here on Brave the Wild, episode number 16. A reminder for iPod users, do check out Purple Mafia Minnesota Vikings podcast. I just did a show on Friday, so that's partially why I didn't do this one on Friday, because I didn't want to get 2 shows in one day. I wanted to, but I didn't want to, I guess. There's just kind of a lot going on, and I was a little distracted, and I didn't want to have a show where I'm kind of halfway there and halfway not there, I just can't do that. Purple Mafia is the big show of my Paladino Live Productions, my 3 shows, so definitely check that one out, Minnesota Vikings. All right. Minnesota Wild, let's get on to the topic at hand. The Minnesota Wild lose at Colorado. What a surprise on Thursday night at Colorado, as we call them the worst team in the Western Conference. They're a pretty good worst team, though. I mean, I will have to admit, even though Joe Sakic not available due to injuries, the Wild, well, they did get a point out of it, which is nice, and I know everybody's just kind of like, whatever, and I agree. It's not exactly the greatest thing ever. They lose in a shootout, so it wasn't really 2-1. It just kind of shows up as 2-1. Not the most exciting game of all time, but then again, yeah, if you're a Colorado fan, it was somewhat exciting as they got 40 shots on goal. 40 shots on goal. That is just nuts. The Wild gets 17 shots on goal. So without Nicklas Backstrom, we're done. Without Nicklas Backstrom, we're done in this game. This was just a phenomenal job by Nicklas Backstrom. Budai over there in Colorado only had to face 17 shots, and Marc-Andre Bergeron, halfway into the first period, was able to get his 10th goal of the year. This was on the power play. Marek Zidlicki and Koivu assisting there. No surprise to see Zidlicki teamed with him, as those defensemen are really good on the power play. But yeah, I'm telling you, there's been some frustration as they're really not very good defensemen. They're just good for getting goals on the power play. I mean, that's nice, but it's not like the Wild are really scoring that many goals this year versus last year. Now, are they? Yeah, it just kind of puts you in a frustrating position. The face-offs, surprise, the Wild lose that category 31-24. What a surprise. Colorado 1 for 4 on the power play. So the Minnesota Wild's number one power play, no more the number one power play in the NHL. As I was talking about the previous couple of episodes, that there's been, you're starting to see you're starting to see teams get through the Minnesota Wild penalty kill the past couple of weeks here, and they are now the number 2 penalty kill in the NHL, not number 1. Now that doesn't make them horrible or anything, but you could just tell that there's some holes showing up. The Wild, fortunately, though, do convert on one as well, 1 of 4. So go figure. That was the Marc-Andre Bergeron goal. Real early in the second period, only 37 seconds to be exact. Jean-Michel Lillies getting his 9th goal of the year. That, of course, on the power play. Paul Stastny and Marek Savados assisting on that goal. Colorado outshot the Wild 13-8 in the first period, 11-5 in the second period, and 14-2 in the third period. Nicklas Backstrom stood on his head. Minnesota Wild couldn't even get the puck out of their zone in this stupid period, the third period. But thank God Nicklas Backstrom kept us in the game, and he got us a point. Nicklas Backstrom single-handedly got us the point on this particular night. Unfortunately, of course, he lost in the shootout. Wolowski was stopped. Owen Nolan stopped. Or actually, no, excuse me, what am I talking about? Wolowski scored right off the bat, yeah, and Nolan missed. Hayduk scored, so it was already 2-0 in the shootout, and Koivu was stopped. So Nicklas Backstrom let them down in the shootout, but I mean, on a night when you've been getting peppered and the puck has basically been in your zone the whole night, what do you expect? What a surprise. What a surprise that we lost this game. All right, let's move on, shall we, before I get too upset? Wild lose at Dallas the following night. Another, well, I won't say they're a bad team, but they're a team the Wild need to beat. When you have a back-to-back at Dallas and at St. Louis, and you're within about a point of each team, when you're trying to make the playoffs, you are trying to make the playoffs with everything you got. You need to win at least one of these two, if not both of them. And, yeah, the Wild end up losing both of them, folks. So let's start off with the first one at Dallas. At least we got a point game, but Dallas got 2 points. And when you're tied with the Dallas Stars, or at least 1 point off, I can't remember exactly what it was at the time, but yeah, you need the second point, and Dallas getting the 1 point. That would help. This one was overtime, not a shootout loss, but you knew the Wild were in trouble. 2 minutes into the game, the Dallas Stars, Steve Ott scores his 14th goal of the year. Louis Eriksson and Mike Ribeiro, former Montreal Canadien, assisting there in a fairly entertaining first period. There were 23 shots total in the first period. Not surprisingly, the Wild lose in that category. 13-10 in favor of the Dallas Stars. Second period, much more entertaining and a lot more fun for the Wild. Steve Ott, unfortunately, though, only 38 seconds into the 38 seconds into the second period, by the way. And Mike Ribeiro and Louis Anderson assisting again. So that line working pretty good for the Dallas Stars. Louis Eriksson, by the way, had 3 assists in this game. 3. But yeah, Steve Ott, 15th goal of the year there. Koivu, with his 18th goal of the year, a little bit past the halfway point of the game in the second period. 18th goal of the year on the power play. Antti Miettinen and Andrew Brunette assisting on that particular goal. Now the Wild power play continuing to actually do well, so that's good to see. Wild 1 for 3 on the power play. Dallas Stars 0 for 3, so the penalty kill standing strong there. Minnesota actually outshooting the Dallas Stars in this period, 12-7, so very good for the Wild, as Brunette only less than 2 minutes later notches his 16th goal of the year. Nicky Schultz and Pierre-Marc Bouchard assisting on that goal. I'm going to get into Andrew Brunette also real quick in a second, right as I finish up this game review. I'll get into that in a second. Very entertaining period for the Wild, and it gave us hope. It really did. And the third period was fairly underwhelming, not too exciting. Minnesota getting 8 shots on goal. Dallas 6 shots on goal, and no goals were scored. Nicholas Backstrom overall stopped 29 shots. Or no, not 29 shots. 6 of 29 for the game. Dallas 29 shots overall. The Wild 30 shots overall, so they actually win that category. The face-offs, well, Dallas winning 32-22. And, face-offs are kind of a weakness for the Wild, aren't they? They're about 27th place in the league. 27th place. That does not bode well when you're trying to make the playoffs. You need to win face-offs. The third period just totally sucked. The Wild didn't even get a shot on goal. Dallas got 3, and on their third shot on goal, Nicholas Grossman with his second goal of the year, and Louis Eriksson getting his third assist of the game. And the Dallas Stars get a victory. And the Wild fall behind another point from the Dallas Stars, who are about the 7th, 8th seed in this Western Conference at this particular time. The Wild, the 9th seed. Very frustrating indeed. And now, a side note really quick before I get into the next story. I figure I can talk about it here and now because I'm going to devote the third segment to Marian Gaborik, believe it or not. Folks, Andrew Brunette is playing with a partially torn ACL, according to Michael Russo. And remember how I was talking about all season that Andrew Brunette looks and sounds like he's hurt? I mean, you can just hear it in his voice that he's just he's not comfortable. He's in pain. You know, this year is just not his year. He's not happy right now. He's frustrated. The team's not playing so good. Andrew Brunette is playing with a partially torn ACL. He is playing with it. Think about it. Think about Timberwolves fans with Al Jefferson going down to the ACL injury out for the season. Unbelievable that Andrew Brunette is able to keep playing. It's just crazy. I mean, I know in basketball, there's just no way in hell you can play with a torn ACL, but still, I just can't believe it. And there's also mentioned a possibility that it is already a complete tear of the ACL. Andrew Brunette, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you're still able to play hockey at a pretty significant level, despite your numbers are significantly down this year compared to a 65-point year in Colorado last year. Andrew Brunette, what a tough SOB Andrew Brunette is, along with Owen Nolan. Both of them have been, playing dinged up all year. Owen Nolan, by the way, in the final game review I'm going to get to. Whew, yeah, this guy. I'm so happy with Owen Nolan. I can't even tell you. It's just such a shame that such a nice year from Owen Nolan, a nice renaissance, is quite possibly going to get wasted this year if the Wild do not make the playoffs. All right, let's get to the second game of the back-to-back, so this isn't a 2-hour show here. Minnesota Wild go to St. Louis, and our success rate in St. Louis this year has been zilch, zippo nada. And it was a 5-3 demolishment in this game. 5-3 in favor of the St. Louis Blues. And once again, folks, remember the old take care and tempt not thy fates. Well, the Wild go down 3-0 in this game. This is the third game now that the Wild have gone down 3-0 in the past 2 to 3 weeks here. 2 in a row, it was against the San Jose Sharks. The first time the Wild made that miracle comeback on the road and won. The second one, well, it went to overtime in St. Paul, and the Wild lost. Take care and tempt not thy fates, Minnesota. David Backes, 15 minutes into the first period, getting his 23rd goal of the year. Now, this is when the Wild's penalty kill goes completely down the toilet. And we're talking the Levy's break here. I mean, it is an utter demolition. It's Building 7 happening in St. Louis. This is unbelievable. I mean, this is complete bullcrap. St. Louis Blues 3 for 6 on the power play, and the first 3 goals of the game were on the power play. David Backes with his 23rd. Keith Tkachuk, 6.5 minutes into the second period, makes it 2-0, his 21st goal of the year on the power play. McDonald and Oshie assisting there. That's Oshie's second assist. He also assisted on Backes. Boys assisted on Backes'. David Perron getting his 12th goal of the year only a minute and a half later. Another flippin' power play by the St. Louis Blues. Not only are we giving up these power play goals, and it's total bullcrap and it's ridiculous, but the discipline level in this game it's just there's no discipline when you're getting letting St. Louis have this many power plays for one. Perron assisted by Patrick Bergeron and Carlo Colaviasco. I don't know. I got that one wrong. Wow. 3-0 St. Louis in St. Louis. There's no way in hell we're going to win this game, and everybody on the planet knows it. Andrew Burnett, torn ACL and all, with his 17th goal of the year. About 6 minutes later, Kim Janssen and Owen Nolan, Old Man Nolan, assisting there. Brad Winchester, though, only 5 minutes later, getting his 12th goal of the year. Oh, goody, now it's 4-1. And, yeah, that's the end of the second period. The St. Louis Blues had 15 shots to 4 on goal in the first period. 14-7 in favor of St. Louis in the second period. Nicholas Backstrom, after that 4th goal of the game, Brad Winchester, Nicholas Backstrom was pulled. It was like, enough's enough. Josh Harding comes in and faces the remaining 6 shots of the game from the Blues and stops him, thankfully. Man. As now the third period comes around, Minnesota actually gets 11 shots on goal, and that's how they get 2 more goals in this game, believe it or not. Stephane Veilleux with his 11th goal of the year. John Scott, who is now on the roster due to injury problems in the Minnesota Wild defense corps, the blue line. John Scott and Martin Skula, kind of an ugly line there. Kind of an ugly, wow, that's a pretty ugly blue line. John Scott and Martin Skula, Stephane Veilleux, the Checker, getting the 11th goal of the year. Marc-André Bergeron getting his 11th goal of the year. Brunette and Zidlicki assisting. This was about 5 minutes later. And now it's 4-3, folks. It's 4-3. And fans in Minnesota are starting to believe a little bit. Like, hey, it's 4-3. We're actually getting more shots on goal here than the Blues in the third period. Nope. Brad Boys getting the empty netter. 29th goal of the year. Andy McDonald assisting. Is, of course, the Wild pulling Josh Harding. When there was about a minute to go, Brad Boys, 29th goal of the year. And that was all she wrote. And the Wild make a nice comeback effort in that third period, but it wasn't enough. And so be it. So be it, Jedi. St. Louis at 36 shots on goal. The Wild with 22. And, of course, the surprise of the week. This is the biggest surprise I've ever seen. The Wild lose in the face-off category. 30-23. I can't believe it. Wow. No, okay. I'm sorry. It's every single night that the Wild lose in the face-off category. In these games I reviewed, I think it's been like once or twice now. Yeah, this is utterly ridiculous since I started following that stat when I, should have been following it all year. Sorry. Anyhow, the Wild get her done against the Colorado Avalanche on the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, March the 17th. The Wild get her done, and this was really a cool game. This was a shootout, and an unlikely hero in the third period gets her done. We'll get to that in a second. There were no goals in the first period, no goals at all. This was a pretty fun game, though, I got to admit. 10-9 victory for the Wild on the shots on goal category. Colorado 12-9 in the second period. Cody McLeod getting his 13th goal of the year. Ben Gutt getting the assist. Stephane Veilleux with very shortly, though, right after that, just about a minute after that, getting his 12th goal of the year. So Veilleux, 2 games in a row, scoring. Skula and Belanger assisting there. Ryan Smith puts Colorado right back up only a minute later. It's just like, what's going on here? It was entertaining. It was an entertaining second period, but a little frustrating. The Wild thought they had something going, and the Colorado Avalanche right away score again. Ryan Smith, 26th goal of the year. And then the third period, well, the Wild shut her down a bit. Only 4 shots on goal by Colorado. Gotta love that. No power plays were achieved in this game. Colorado only had 1 power play, and they were stopped. The Wild had 3, and they were stopped. Minnesota winning the face-off category. So there it is. There's the third time pretty much in about 3 months there, the Wild winning the face-off category. So congratulations there. And not surprisingly, we actually win the game. Nikki Schultz has the puck, thanks to Dan Fritchie making a nice play. Belanger first having the puck, getting it to Fritchie. Fritchie just always on the play, making a nice little pass to Schultz. Schultz just kind of tries to put the puck on net. Oh, he got it over Budai's shoulder and scores. Nick Schultz with his second goal of the game to tie this sucker up. I mean, the fans were all revved up. They're believing, hoping, and praying this Wild team can, save themselves here. Nicky Schultz gets it over Budai's shoulder. That was his left shoulder. That was just spectacular. And his second goal of the year. And wow, you just knew that the Leprechauns were on the Wild side, even though the Wild no longer are wearing those green jerseys anymore. And quite frankly, I miss them. I still have mine in the closet, just waiting to be worn. I wish the Wild would bring back those green jerseys. Man, I should do a show about some of that stuff at some point, or at least I'll get maybe a poll about that sometime. Yeah, bring back those green jerseys, by the way. That would have been a perfect idea. But, yeah, we go to overtime. Very unexciting overtime. 1 shot on goal apiece. Pretty lame. So now we go to a shootout again with Colorado. Once again. So will the Wild win it this time? Wojciech Wolowski? Nope. Or he scores right away. Wolowski scores right away. Koivu saves the season right there, scoring on his attempt. Hayduk is stopped. Bouchard is stopped. Zavados is stopped. And Marek Zidlicki scores, and the Wild escape with 2 points, and thank God, this keeps the Wild's playoff chances alive for the time being. Thank God, indeed. And, the Leprechauns were smiling on the Wild on the 17th of March. Unfortunately, though, 3 days later, Friday night, the 20th of March, our second last game to review. Whoa, well. This was, Martin Brodeur, his first start since achieving the all-time victory record in NHL history for goaltenders. He passed Patrick Waugh, sat out the next night and weeks. It was beaten pretty bad. Their backup goalie was beaten up pretty good. So Brodeur is back, and he gets a shutout. This was pretty lame for the Minnesota Wild. The Wild go to Newark, New Jersey. It's 35 shots on goal, and Brodeur achieves his 101st shutout of his career. That is absolutely insane. Just totally insanity. Just total insanity. And Zidlicki looked like crap in this game. He had one of his worst games I've ever seen. It was the worst game I've seen Zidlicki play in particular. And it does make you, again, come back and say, yeah, he's good on offense, but he's not really good on defense, and that's kind of his job, right? As he pretty much gave the puck to Patrick Elias. 29th goal of the year, unassisted, and that's why it was unassisted. It was assisted by Marek Zidlicki. All right. That was in the second period. Excuse me for that little outburst. The Wild, of course, a very unentertaining first period. 6-4 shots on goal in favor of New Jersey. 16-7 in favor of the Wild. Now, look at it, 16 shots on goal to 7 in favor of the Wild, but New Jersey gets 3 goals and the Wild get none. Nicklas Backstrom is pulled again. It's what's going on with Nicklas Backstrom. Frustrating. The Wild, by the way, 0 for 7 on the power play, and they give up 1. Terrific. Brian Gionta, getting his 18th goal of the year. Zach Parise, who's having an unbelievable year. He is a 40-goal guy now, Zach Parise, the son of former North Star J.P. Parise. Mike Mutto assisting on Brian Gionta's goal. That was at the halfway point of the game, 10 minutes into the second period, 2-0 in favor of New Jersey. Johnny Oduya is getting his 7th goal of the year. David Clarkson and Brendan Shanahan, whose name is returned. He is back in the NHL again. 3-0 New Jersey, and pathetic. The third period was very entertaining, but the Wild, of course, got nothing done. New Jersey getting 16 shots on goal. Patrick Elias again with his 30th goal of the year. This was on the power play. Zach Parise and former Gopher Paul Martin. So a Minnesota connection for Patrick Elias there. Former Gopher Paul Martin. And Paul Martin has been the most successful Golden Gopher other than Thomas Vanek. Those two have been huge. Those guys were major factors for the 2003 Golden Gopher Championship. So that's a shout out to Jenny if you're listening. Hope you are. Man. But this game, well, it didn't make you think of the Golden Gophers at all. It really didn't at all. Josh Harding was outstanding with 17 shots, but it didn't really matter. He did his job basically. Faced 18 shots, gave up that 30th goal of the year by Patrick Elias. Man. Oof. The Wild actually won in the face-off category. What the hell? I don't know what happened there. I just can't believe it when you look at this. It just doesn't make any sense other than the 0 for 7 on the power play. But let's just move on. That game wasn't even worth turning the TV on to watch. It just wasn't. But today's was absolutely worth watching. Sunday, the 22nd of March. Sounds familiar, right? The Wild win 3-0. Now you talk about redemption. For Nicklas Backstrom, he got redemption today in more ways than one. Now it was because, partially getting pulled the past couple times, and you know how they faced a legendary goalie and his team got shut out and he got beat up pretty good. Not today. And also we'll remember how him and Dwayne Rollison had a really dramatic battle about 2 weeks ago, and Dwayne Rollison was, like Nicklas Backstrom was good, Dwayne Rollison was unbelievable. As he faced 45 shots, I believe, in that game, and just stopped one after the other as the Oilers won 2-1 on that night. Not today. 31 shots on goal, 31 saves for Nicklas Backstrom. A shutout, Dwayne Rollison faced 36 shots, and of course stopped 33. The first period was an indicator that the Wild were going to lose to like 99% of the population, as it was 15 shots on goal to 2. 15 shots to 2. And this on a day when Marian Gaborik returns to the lineup, and people were really focusing on him the whole game, as that you'd think the Wild would get more shots on goal because the Oilers are paying so much attention to Marian Gaborik. Fortunately, though, it does happen eventually, as this second period was unbelievable. This was about as entertaining a second period as you're going to get when it comes to the Wild and getting scoring chances. Now, some of them were pretty weak, as Martin Skula got booed because it was such a weak attempt. I just couldn't believe it, and the crowd was booing, and hey, more power to the crowd for booing like a guy like Martin Skula at times, because he drives us nuts. 23 shots on goal for the Wild, 12 for the Edmonton Oilers. The Wild only get one goal, but it was converted on the power play. Edmonton was 0 for 5, Wild were 1 for 5. Owen Nolan, Old Man Nolan, who was the leading goal scorer for your Wild, 21st goal of the year. Dan Fritchie and Pierre-Marc Bouchard getting the assist on that goal. The second period was just fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Third period, not any worse, that's for sure. Edmonton only getting 4 shots on goal. No problem for Nicklas Backstrom to get the shutout. Owen Nolan with his 22nd goal of the year. James Shepard and Kim Janssen factoring in there. Stefan Veja with his 13th goal of the year at about the 12.5-minute point of the third period. 13th goal of the year, unassisted, and that was all that mattered. The Wild just shut down the Edmonton Oilers on this particular day. Gaborik had 6 shots on goal in his first game in about, 18 minutes of ice time. So welcome back, Marian Gaborik. That indeed was good. He looked like the same old Gabby, believe it or not. And Owen Nolan, this man is determined. You can just see it in his eyes when he talks. You can see it in his eyes when he scored both of those goals. This guy wants to take the Wild into the playoffs, and he's doing a very good job of it. He is leading us in goal scoring. Terrific game for Owen Nolan. Definitely not Mikko Koivu's day, as he only played 10 minutes today. I don't know if it was an injury issue or what the deal was. Only one shot on goal. Go figure. Not sure what exactly happened with Mikko. Maybe he needed some rest. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The Wild win in a shutout, and it was one of the funner games to watch of the entire season. So that's the end of your game reviews. And real quick, I'll also mention the next game for the Wild against the New York Rangers at New York in Madison Square Garden on Tuesday, the 24th of March. So I'm going to take us a quick break, and we're going to get into some Marian Gaborik talk right after this. Here on thesportstuff.com, we're bursting in blue with Timberwolves Explosion. Timberwolves fans, your show has arrived at last as we bring in a new era with Al Jefferson, Kevin Love, and Mike Miller. We're available on thesportstuff.com and also available on iTunes. Download and listen to in-depth and detailed coverage of your favorite team. Show your true blue and join this explosion of Timberwolves basketball. And we are back here on Brave the Wild, episode number 16, a reminder for iPod users. Timberwolves Explosion, I know, Minnesota Timberwolves podcast, not the most exciting team in town, but boy, expect a very entertaining show coming out tomorrow or Tuesday at the latest. It's going to be a pretty entertaining show. You better check it out. Though Tuesday, of course, is Paul Tooniverse Caniff's birthday. Looking forward to that, Paul, if you're listening, and you better be. So, Paul turning 29 years of age on the 24th of March. Alrighty. Marian Gaborik has returned to the Minnesota Wild, and now the question is, how much will he help us? The return, now this article of the Pioneer Press, we're going to go on this because this is where the quotes are. John Shipley of the Pioneer Press, with this article, Marian Gaborik set Wild franchise scoring records with 42 goals and 83 points last season. He once scored 5 goals in a victory over the New York Rangers. Oh my God, that was a beautiful memory. Whew. Excuse me, back to the article. But for what could be his last trick as a member of the Wild, he has set his sights even higher. Gaborik, who hasn't played a game since before Christmas, wants to come back and pull his moribund team into the NHL playoffs. Gaborik is expected to play at home today against Edmonton. If he pulls this one off, it just might change everything. If we weren't in the playoff hunt, if we weren't in the playoff hunt, if there was no chance we could make it, I wouldn't be playing, Gaborik said. I want to go out there and really help. It's for the guys, this team, the fans, and nobody else. Yes, sir. The implication, of course, is that it's not just about Gaborik, whose season thus far has been spent either nursing an injury or recovering from injury. Since turning down a lucrative contract extension, he has played only 6 games. But if he can come back from nearly 3 months off and supply enough offense to make the Wild a real playoff team, well, maybe everyone will forget about the rest of the season. It won't be easy. Heading into this afternoon's game against the Edmonton Oilers, Minnesota is ranked 12th in the Western Conference, 3 points out of the 8th and final spot with just 11 regular season games remaining. Can it really be done? Obviously, Gaborik said. I don't think I would be playing otherwise. I want to help. This is what fans and the team have been waiting to hear from Gaborik, a target of criticism since turning down the contract. Let's go back to, it didn't help that Gaborik is the Wild's highest paid player with a cap hit of $6.3 million, yet since the 2004-05 lockout, he has missed 94 games because of injury. When he came back from rehab in Aspen, Colorado, and told reporters he hadn't watched many games during rehab, many took it as a sign that he didn't care. He disputed that Sunday, and I was wondering about that too. Gaborik now talks. I was doing twice a day rehab, so it was tough to get to see games, he said. And second of all, I watched the games when I could, and I was following every game online. But I think if you ask any injured player, any injured guy, It's really hard to watch. You can't help and you get worked up. You wish you were out there. So it was a combination of things, but if I was in Minnesota, I would watch, or if I got a chance to watch, I would watch. So, Belanger adds in, Gaborik is such a clutch player, said Belanger, who centered a line with Gaborik and Stefan Veyer during a long practice Saturday at the Parade Ice Garden. You've seen the way we played last year when he was healthy. Basically, the whole talk here is that this thing is going to be very interesting. Gaborik, real quick here. Every game is a playoff game, Gaborik said. It's going to be tough. It's a big challenge for every guy in this locker room. Hopefully, we can make that push. Final quotes here. I'm not thinking about contract. I just want to go out there and play and try to make the playoffs. The guys have been through a lot this year. It's hard to watch when you can't help. I think they did a great job, and I'm coming back, and I want to help and enjoy every moment. So, Gaborik saying all the right things at this particular time. And now we conclude that article. Thank you, Shipley, John Shipley, from the Pioneer Press. Gaborik is saying all the right things at this point in time, so I'm definitely happy to hear that. There has been rampant speculation that the Wild could potentially sign Marian Gaborik to a 3-year deal. There is a very good shot of that because his market value has dropped at this point in time, and that it wouldn't make sense to sign him to a 1-year deal for Gaborik or for the Wild. So a 3-year deal could be in the works at some point in time after the season. Obviously, I think the whole contract thing is pretty much up in the air still at this point in time. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we can get him signed once again, as we all thought Gaborik was out of here a few years ago after the lockout, and he's still here. So who knows what will happen? Who knows what will happen in the coming months? But Gaborik today was a boost for the Minnesota Wild, and I do see him being a boost the rest of the season if he doesn't get hurt again. Ooh, did I say that? So now the poll, which is, of course, on thesportstuff.com. In the podcast section, click Brave the Wild where it says podcasts. This is on the message boards, of course. The question is, will Marian Gaborik's return help the Wild make the playoffs? Yes, no, or not sure are the 3 choices. I'm going to say not sure at this point in time because who knows? I mean, all the teams seem to stay with us. Whenever we win, they win. Whenever we lose, they lose. So the Wild need to make a serious winning streak here if they're going to get in the playoffs, in my opinion. That's where I'm going to stand. I'm not going to say no, but I'm not going to say yes at this point in time. So please get out there and vote on this poll. I'd appreciate it very much. Do send me an email at paladinolive@yahoo.com. paladinolive@yahoo.com. Also, I have a MySpace for Brave the Wild. It is myspace.com/Brave the Wild. myspace.com/Brave the Wild. And if you have a Facebook out there, do add Paladino Live Productions. That's Paladino Live Productions. That is a group. Do join the group on Facebook. I'd appreciate that as well. It is a lot of fun, and it's also a way to kind of get an update as when the shows are out, because some of you might not know all the time. Maybe you don't have iTunes. But other than that, thank you always for listening. It means a lot to me, and I hope it means a lot to you. So please do tell a friend, and let's make this show bigger. Thanks again to Chris and Dylan and Chris Porter, also, who is a regular listener, Matt Kennedy. Shout out to you guys, Steelers Girl. Thank you always for checking out this show, and I want to wish all of you a great week or so. Hopefully I'll get this one up in a shorter time next time around, so it won't be a 40-minute long show. It's like this one. But oh well, it doesn't really matter. So thanks again for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon. Take care.